Recap of November 18th. Finished 5R. Um, my whole ideas coming into the day was based off of all these lows right here. So this, well, basically, last week we ran this big low and then could not actually stay above the first internal highs of the opposing range. So I was expecting us to be a little bit range bound or at least for this run up to fail. And then coming into market open, we had just swept that low. So I was watching this low for a potential liquidity sweep, and I wanted to see what we were doing at this old liquidity too. So for me, I was looking at coming into the open 709.25 for the old liquidity, and then even this low at 626. And if they were gonna hold, then I wanted to be bullish to try to play this liquidity sweep holding. And if they were not holding, then I want to be bearish into the next targets. The thing is, before the market opened, I'm on a 15-minute. We had already tried to hold both of these liquidities up, 709 and 626. First attempt failed. Second attempt tried again, and it just got rejected off these monthly levels up here. So when the market opened and we were already hovering back down here, rejecting off them old internal highs, and we had already failed this monthly level on an attempt to push this, I was already inclined to be bearish a little bit because I thought that these things were weak, 709 and 626. Because we had already failed the higher time frame level above on a bigger time frame. So what I wanted to see was if I was going to be bullish on these levels holding on open, then I wanted us to try to sell off of this internal 1 minute range and hold above. Because if this is a huge liquidity sweep, we should not sell off a 1 minute range. Market open, flew over the range, failed to push anything, and started falling off. So I was watching this internal high to see what we were doing to help get an idea if I wanted to be bullish above these liquidities that we were already above. But if we were going to fail off this internal 1 minute range, then I'm expecting both of this liquidity sweeps to fail because why is a 1 minute range causing a huge time frame liquidity sweep to fail? So that's why I was watching this internal high closely. We pushed over it. We couldn't hold it from above. We get under. We start rejecting it from underneath. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, we're already losing this internal high. We already rejected this huge monthly level on the attempt to hold all this liquidity up pre-market. If we're gonna fail this internal range, then I want to be bearish. So we started rejecting underneath it after trying to hold above it. And then right here, we try to fall under. I'm thinking this is looking pretty bearish. The last attempt to potentially still hold everything could be we just want to reject off this high to go sweep this internal low and then get back above. So I wanted to see after this candle printed what this sweep did. All it did was push back up into this PDR level, this higher time frame level, and then we fell back down and closed under 709. So I'm already thinking 709 and 626 are sus as liquidity sweeps because they already failed to push this higher time frame level above when we originally tried to sweep them. And now on the market open, since we pulled back from that, we can't even break out of this 1 minute range. So then when we failed this final internal low and rejected everything, I put a limit to try to take the retest of 709 right there with my stop above this immediate rebalance because I thought we were gonna be failing this and try to push everything right now. But I didn't get filled and it just started pushing. And then I took my limit off after that because I wanted to get it immediately on that failure. But from there, I was bearish. If we're losing these levels, we pushed down and just spiked this internal range. I just wanted to see what we did. All it did was send us to rebalance. Okay, here's my original trade. Um, Kind of the same idea here. Like if we're failing all this liquidity sweeps, I'm bearish on everything. The last thing I need is to see that this internal range is not getting bought up because I'm playing external ideas, like bigger time frame ideas of these big lows failing as a sweep. So I wanted to see this 1 minute range fail as a sweep. We tried to sweep it and buy it up. It just rejected off that old liquidity 709. Then we fall under that higher time frame level, hold under the higher time frame level, and then break and lose everything. We lose this encapsulating wick that was holding that bottom of the sweep of that internal range. and we lose the low. And right here, I took the retest of this wick with my stop above this candle. I thought this was a safe stop because this wick high is the wick of the candle that had already closed underneath the level and retested it, and it gives room for this whole wick to get filled up. But here I was really convinced that we were about to lose everything and try to push into these next targets. So I got filled there, almost got stopped out. It missed. Really, all this stuff is confusing. And I started trailing once we after we started holding under this next target, this 603, these lows and rejecting from underneath them is when I started trailing. So I believe I trailed. I had a stop trailed like above here or something, and I got trailed out on this little pullback. But I was convinced that if we were failing the 603, which is this first target, and we're failing all these old liquidity sweeps, that we're just gonna start floating down to the next targets. Um, and yeah, I got a kind of an early trail out, and this thing ended up pushing. So from here, if these lows that I'm looking at, that all this old liquidity is failing, then I'm assuming that we're gonna try to push this next target, which is that 410 low. But when we start pushing into 410 right above and missing it, now there's the potential to create bigger equal lows. So at this point, my whole idea is, are we creating equal lows? Um, and I don't want to short anything when there's still potential to create equal lows. So I want to watch what the behavior is like, and if I'm convinced that we're not creating equal lows right now, and that that idea to create equal lows with 410 is failing, then I still want to short into 410 because I think it's still going to get hit. So the way I was going to determine if these equal lows uh getting created were fake is if this attempt to push up couldn't break any internal highs. So we started stalling of this internal high, which is suspect. If we're going to create big equal lows, why are we failing at an internal 1 minute high? So I started getting bearish, but we started getting choppy. We couldn't really make any decision. It was back and forth, so I stopped focusing on it a lot because it was just getting range bound. And okay, at this point, I wanted to play the actual equal lows created. If we could get above and stay above this internal range and get back above this old liquidity, this 603, which is those lows that we swept. But we just pushed up and rejected off of them. Tried to hold up this internal range here and then started failing. So at this point, I was trying to short the equal lows here. Say that these equal lows trying to get created are failing because we can't even break above this first 1 minute range, and we're rejecting underneath the old liquidity, and we were failing to buy up that little internal low. So I was just trying to find a way to get in shorts here. I wanted to get in something here, but I wasn't really able to. We started stalling at this higher time frame level, and in my mind, I was still trying to short this thing. I was just convinced that 410 was gonna go, that we weren't making equal lows because again, if we are gonna make equal lows, why are we stalling at the first 1 minute range? These should be huge higher time frame equal lows. It should be able to get above this range, but it wasn't. So at this point, I was trying to short the break of this wick because now we're holding underneath this higher time frame level, like we're holding under everything. And when we finally broke it, I just took a retest of one of the levels within it with my stop above these last candles that tested the higher time frame level, and I got stopped out. Just got stopped out trying to shorten the chop. I knew it was risky. I was just playing in chop, but yeah, I got stopped out and it chopped a little more, and then it finally hit the 410 lows and didn't make equal lows. So my final trade came on the actual liquidity sweep here. So now that we hit 410, either this thing's gonna fail to buy at 410 and we're gonna just keep dying, or 410 is gonna be the bottom of this sweep and we're gonna push up and we're gonna try to regain all this old liquidity we swept and just push all these targets up here. So the way I was gonna do this is if 410 gets swept, bought, and held up, and we push to the internal highs, again, this is a 1 minute internal range, and this is a huge higher time frame liquidity sweep. A way I can determine if this is an actual liquidity sweep is if we hold above the internal highs, because then this higher time frame idea is stronger than this lower time frame range. We push up, we start holding this thing really cleanly. We get back above the internal lows. We get back above this higher time frame level. We hold the higher time frame level. We push up, and from here, I'm trying to see what are we doing at this internal range. I want to be long literally right here as soon as I'm convinced that these internal highs are not selling off. So when we push up into them and try to sell off, I'm watching very closely to see what is this internal high selling off doing. It rejects. All it does is push and retest a level. Okay. Can we regain and get above this original wick? We get back above the liquidity, but then we just sweep that internal high and reject and lose this again. So now it's starting to look like we might actually want to sell out these internal highs when I'm playing a bigger liquidity sweep. So I still want to see what we do. Next candle falls. So now I'm thinking we're stalling off this internal high. The last attempt to still go long and stall off these internal highs is if they just want to send us to sweep those equal lows. So if we just sweep these equal lows, still hold the level, still hold the internal highs, and then break above now this wick that's holding all this little mini price action down, then I'm trying to long it. I'm trying to long it because now everything's in line. We have this big liquidity sweep holding. We have this higher time frame level holding. We already swept all this liquidity down here. And now we're getting above an internal range, trying to sell off, failing, and then getting back above. So we swept those lows, held the level, stalled, got back above the liquidity. I want to see the thing hold from above and a break of the wick. It holds from above. Now, I was going to take the retest at the top of the wick as soon as we closed it. This candle, and I wanted to put my stop underneath this candle's low because I wanted that fair value gap to stay open. And this low should be safe because we've already closed this internal high and then traded below it. So we shouldn't need to retest it deeper again. But this candle was about to close this wick until the last second. Like it was like 2 seconds left in the candle. I placed the limit and then at the last millisecond it closed underneath. So I got filled in this thing a little bit early. I shouldn't have been in this, and I didn't want to be in this until we broke the wick. But this thing still pushed. Normally, if I had not gotten in that, this is when I would have put a limit on. Once we actually closed the wick, take a retest. I was break even at that point, and for some reason on micros, I actually was still in the trade because my fill was a little bit lower. Since I tried to place a limit when this candle closed here, it market entered me a little lower. So I got really lucky on this position. But normally, if I would have taken it normally the way I do and waited for this break, which I thought was happening here, then I would have got the same trade anyways. But from here, I'm filled on this long. I'm expecting this is a big liquidity sweep. This internal range failed. We're probably going to try and regain all this liquidity we swept. And yeah, I ended up getting this move and then trailing out for 4.5 R, like somewhere around here. And that was the session. 5 R total. We got like 1.7 R on this, and then a loss, and then 4.5.